My girlfriend cheated on me with my best friend at his wedding, but then I found out that love is supposed to be built on trust. Or at least, that's what I believed. For 8 years, I thought I had found the person I'd spend my life with. Nicole was my best friend, my partner, the person I trusted more than anyone else. And Ethan? He was my brother in everything but blood. I had a great woman, a great best friend, and a tight-knit friend group that felt like family. But here's the thing about betrayal. It never comes from your enemies. It comes from the people you never thought would hurt you. And in the space of one night, at Ethan's wedding, I learned that everything I believed in was a lie. Nicole and I met in college, in our sophomore year. She wasn't just beautiful. She had this energy that could pull people in. She was the kind of person who made everyone feel important, who could make you laugh even on the worst days. And when she chose me, I felt like I had won the lottery. Our relationship felt perfect. We traveled together. We moved in together after graduation. We built a life that, from the outside, looked unshakable. And for 8 years, I never doubted her. Not once. But maybe that was my biggest mistake. Our friend group was tight, 7 of us in total. For women, 3 men. We had all met through college classes, late-night study sessions, and weekends spent drinking and laughing together. Nicole had been the one closest to them at first, but after we got together, I became one of them too. And then there was Ethan, my college roommate, my best friend since freshman year. The guy who was always by my side, through every high and low. I thought he had my back. I thought he was like a brother to me. I had no idea what he was doing behind it. Looking back, the signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. Nicole always laughed just a little too hard at Ethan's jokes. They had inside jokes I wasn't a part of. She'd text him late at night, saying it was about group stuff. But whenever I brought it up, she'd roll her eyes. Oh my God, you're being jealous. That's so unattractive. And because I loved her, I believed her. I convinced myself I was just overthinking things. That Ethan would never betray me. That Nicole was just bad at setting boundaries, but she'd never cheat. I was an idiot, because behind my back, they weren't just best friends. They were something more. For the past year, I had been pushing for marriage. We had been together for 8 years. We lived together. We had talked about starting a family. I thought we were on the same page. But every time I brought it up, Nicole shut it down. I'm not ready yet. Why are you rushing this? We have time. Let's focus on our careers first. It didn't make sense. We were financially stable. We were in a strong relationship, or so I thought. We had already been living like a married couple. Why was she so hesitant? Now, I know the answer. She was never planning to marry me, because I was just her safety net, her backup plan. And Ethan? He was the real reason she kept holding back. When Ethan announced his engagement, I was genuinely happy for him. Nicole was excited too, maybe a little too excited. She spent weeks picking out the perfect dress. She made sure we RSVP'd immediately. And when we arrived at the wedding venue, she acted like it was the biggest event of the year. At the time, I thought she was just happy for our friend. Now, I realized she was celebrating something else entirely. Because Ethan wasn't just her best friend, he was her secret. And at his wedding, that secret was about to come crashing down. Weddings are supposed to be a celebration of love and commitment. But for me, Ethan's wedding became the day I learned just how deep the betrayal ran. It was the day that turned my 8-year relationship into nothing but a joke. And the worst part? Everyone knew, except me. The night before the wedding, there was a huge rehearsal dinner at the resort. But I never made it. I had a splitting migraine after the long drive and told Nicole to go ahead without me. She hesitated at first, almost like she didn't want to leave me alone. But then, after a moment, she smiled. Don't worry, babe. I'll bring you back dessert. And with that, she left. Hours later, I woke up feeling slightly better, so I figured I'd go grab some medicine from my car. And that's when I saw them. At first, I thought I was seeing things. I saw Nicole's dress, the same one she had spent weeks picking out. And next to her, Ethan. They were pressed up against my car, completely lost in each other. His hands were all over her arms wrapped around his neck. And me? I just stood there, frozen, because in that moment, everything clicked. The late-night texts, The excuses about not being ready for marriage. The way they always had their own private jokes that I wasn't part of. It had been happening for years, and I had been blind to it. I could have rushed over. I could have punched Ethan in the face, screamed at Nicole, made a scene. But instead, I turned around and walked away. Because a private confrontation wasn't enough. They didn't deserve to be dealt with in the shadows. No, I was going to expose them in front of everyone, at Ethan's own wedding. And when I was done, they wouldn't just lose me. They lose everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed up, sitting on the balcony of my hotel room, replaying the scene over and over again in my head. And then, I heard voices, laughter, from the room next door. It was some of our mutual friends, still talking about the rehearsal dinner. And what I heard made my blood run cold. Man, I still can't believe they're so bold about it. A second voice laughed. I know, right? It's been going on for years. You think he'll ever find out? Silence. Then, nah, he's too loyal, too trusting. Poor guy. I sat there, gripping the chair, my entire body shaking. It wasn't just Nicole and Ethan who betrayed me. They all knew. Every single one of them had been laughing behind my back. And that's when I decided, this wouldn't just be about Nicole and Ethan. I was going to burn the entire fake friendship group to the ground. I barely slept that night. Not because of heartbreak, but because of rage. Nicole, the woman I loved, had been lying to my face for years. Ethan, my so-called best friend, had been stabbing me in the back while pretending to be my brother. And our mutual friends? They had known the entire time. They had watched, whispered, and laughed behind my back. I had been the fool, the joke, the guy they thought would never find out. But now, it was my turn to watch them squirm. Because I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to ruin them in front of everyone they cared about. The next morning, I walked into the wedding venue like nothing was wrong. Nicole was all smiles. Ethan was laughing with guests, and their little circle of friends. They looked at me like I was still in the dark. And it took everything in me not to laugh. Because they had no idea what was coming. Ethan's wedding was being held in a huge ballroom, with over 200 guests, his family, his bride's family, business partners, and important friends. A big, lavish event, all eyes on him. Which meant, the stage was perfect, and I was about to take the spotlight. After the ceremony, we moved to the grand reception hall. Everything was perfect, champagne flowing, music playing, people dancing. And then, it was time for the speeches. The best man, me, was expected to give one. Ethan stood at the head of the room, grinning like the arrogant snake he was. Nicole sat off to the side, chatting with our mutual friends, completely unaware. I took the microphone and smiled. I just want to take a moment to say how happy I am for Ethan and his new bride. Marriage is about trust, loyalty, and honesty. I turned toward Ethan, my smile never fading. And I know Ethan understands the importance of honesty. After all, he's been honest with my girlfriend for years. Gasps filled the room. Confusion spread across faces. Ethan's smile vanished. Nicole's face went ghost white. And I kept talking. You see, last night, while I was supposed to be at the rehearsal dinner, I accidentally walked in on something. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and played a video. On the projector behind me, security camera footage lit up. It showed Nicole and Ethan making out in the parking lot, an MY car. And just like that, the entire wedding exploded. Ethan's bride turned to him, eyes wide with shock and betrayal. What the hell is this? Ethan stammered, turning red. Babe, I can explain. But she wasn't having it. In front of everyone, she ripped off her wedding ring and threw it at his chest. We're done. Then she turned and stormed out. Ethan tried to follow her, but her family blocked him. His mother? She looked like she was ready to disown him. His father? He just shook his head in disappointment. And the guests? They were whispering, gasping, recording everything. Ethan wasn't just embarrassed. He was ruined. Nicole ran up to me, tears in her eyes. You didn't have to do this, she cried. We could have talked. I cut her off. Talk? Like how you talked to Ethan behind my back. Like how you let me waste 8 years on you. She flinched, looking around at the crowd watching us. Her voice dropped. Please, can we just... We're done, Nicole. I turned and walked away, because she wasn't worth another second of my time. By the time I left the venue, Ethan's wedding was in shambles. His bride was gone. His family was furious. His career? Ruined. Nicole? She had lost everyone's respect. And our so-called friends? They were avoiding eye contact, because they knew they had been exposed too. As I walked out, someone patted my back. It was Ethan's uncle, a man I barely knew. He gave me a smirk and whispered, "That was legendary." And honestly, I had to agree. As I walked away from that disaster of a wedding, I didn't feel heartbroken. I didn't feel sad. I felt satisfied. Because Ethan and Nicole thought they had played me for a fool. They thought they would get away with it. But now, their lives were about to fall apart, in ways they never expected. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger. They destroyed themselves. After the wedding, Ethan was a mess. His bride left him immediately, cutting off all contact. She took her family's legal team and made sure their engagement was officially annulled, so she wouldn't be tied to him in any way. His parents were humiliated. His father, a powerful businessman, told him he was an embarrassment to the family name. And then, he cut him off financially. Just like that, Ethan went from living a privileged, easy life to being completely on his own. And for the first time ever, he had to face the consequences of his own actions. Meanwhile, Nicole was doing damage control. She tried defending Ethan, saying I was being vindictive and overdramatic. People cheat all the time. You didn't have to destroy his wedding over it. But instead of gaining sympathy, she made things worse. People weren't buying her excuses, because no matter how much she tried to rewrite the story, everyone had seen the proof. She wasn't just a cheater. She was a homewrecker. And soon, even our mutual friends started cutting ties, because no one wanted to be associated with two backstabbing liars. With no job, no money, and no support, Ethan's life spiraled. He went from living in a luxury condo to renting a tiny studio apartment. He started hopping from job to job, unable to keep steady work because his father blacklisted him in their industry. And the best part? The people who used to kiss up to him, his party friends, his fake supporters, vanished overnight. Because without money and power, Ethan was nothing to them. And for the first time, he knew what it felt like to be truly alone. A few months later, Ethan did the most pathetic thing imaginable. He texted me, "Hey man, can we talk?" I actually laughed out loud when I saw it. This man had destroyed my relationship, humiliated me, and laughed behind my back. And now, he wanted to talk? I sent one simple reply. Actions have consequences. Enjoy yours. Then, I blocked his number. Forever. Ethan was ruined. But there was still one loose end. Nicole. After 8 years together, after everything she had done, I knew she wasn't going to disappear quietly. And I was right. Because after weeks of silence, she finally came crawling back. But this time, I was ready. It was a Saturday afternoon when I heard a knock at my door. I opened it, and there she was, Nicole. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, her makeup smudged like she had been crying nonstop. She held up a small bag, some of my old clothes and things I had left at her place. I just wanted to return these," she said, her voice shaky. I took the bag without a word. Then I crossed my arms. "Why are you really here, Nicole?" Her bottom lip trembled. "I miss you." I almost laughed in her face. Nicole stepped closer, her eyes pleading. "I know what I did was wrong. I was confused. I felt trapped. You kept pushing for marriage, and I wasn't ready." I scoffed. "So instead of breaking up with me, you decided to cheat with my best friend? And for how long? Years?" She flinched. "It wasn't like that." "Then tell me, Nicole, what was it like?" She opened her mouth, then closed it, because she had no answer. There was nothing she could say that would make what she did justifiable. So she did the only thing left. She started crying. Nicole reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Her voice cracked. "We had something real. We can fix this." I stared at her for a long moment. Then I said the words that made her break completely. "I don't love you anymore." Her face crumpled, and for a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered the lies, the deception, the years of being played for a fool. I stepped back. We're done, Nicole. We were done the moment you betrayed me. And with that, I shut the door in her face. And for the first time in 8 years, I felt free. The day I shut the door on Nicole was the day I truly moved on. No more lies. No more betrayal. No more wasting years of my life on people who never deserved me. And while I was rebuilding my future, Nicole and Ethan, they were destroying theirs. After I cut both of them out of my life, they did the only thing they could. They stayed together. Not because they were soulmates. Not because they were madly in love. But because they had no one else left. Our friend group abandoned them. Ethan's family disowned him. Nicole's reputation ruined. So, out of pure desperation, they convinced themselves that their relationship was worth something. They even got married within a year. And guess what? It lasted less than 12 months. It started with small cracks. Nicole was used to luxury, financial security, and status. But Ethan? Without his family's money, he was nothing. He struggled to hold a steady job, and his savings dried up fast. And Nicole? She couldn't stand being with a broke loser. The same excitement that made their affair so thrilling, it vanished when real life set in. Fights started, then screaming matches, then accusations, until finally, Nicole did what Nicole always did. She cheated. One day, I got a message from a mutual acquaintance. "Dude, you're not gonna believe this. Nicole cheated on Ethan." I actually laughed out loud. The same woman he destroyed our friendship for? The same woman he risked everything for? She turned around and betrayed him, just like she did to me. It was almost too perfect. Ethan, the guy who thought he could have it all, was now alone, broke, and divorced. And me? I was thriving. I got therapy and healed from the betrayal. I reconnected with real friends, the ones who actually cared. I built a career, traveled, and finally found true happiness. And eventually, I met someone new. Someone who didn't lie. Someone who didn't betray me. Someone who actually loved me the way I deserved. And the best part? I never had to see Ethan or Nicole's pathetic faces ever again. Because in the end, they didn't just lose me. They lost everything. They thought they were winning. They thought I would never find out. But karma never forgets. And watching them destroy themselves, that was the best revenge of all. Because while they were stuck in their misery, I was finally free.